Imagine you're the most powerful being on Earth, right? And then, in a flash, you are stripped of absolutely everything and thrown headfirst into literally one of the darkest, most agonizing chapters in all of human history. Today, in this explainer, we're jumping right into a profoundly emotional narrative. We're looking at a story that strips a legendary hero down to his bare humanity during the horrors of 1945. It's an exploration not just of what makes someone super, but what makes someone undeniably human.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our story kicks off with sheer, terrifying disorientation. The hero doesn't choose to travel back to 1945. As the quote says, he's violently thrown there. Before he can even process what's going on, or this massive time jump, he hears a tank. He looks up and sees a family, the Schnell family, caught right in the crosshairs. Operating on pure, raw instinct, knowing he might not even reach them in time, he throws himself in the way anyway. He manages to twist the tank's barrel with the absolute last remnants of his strength. The landscape around him is just indescribable pain, but in that exact moment, he sees gratitude overflowing in their eyes. But, because he's so focused on saving them, he makes a fatal error. He completely forgets about the second tank.
Section 1. The Powerless Fall. The Loss of Strength. Let's explore his sudden, terrifying vulnerability.
So the narrative takes this really steep, deliberate plunge into darkness here. The shell from that second tank hits him squarely. The ground just rushes up to meet him and he tries to stand, but for the very first time in his life, his body simply refuses to respond. Just before everything goes completely black, his fading consciousness clings to this one, single comforting thought: the family is safe. We can really see how the timeline visually maps out this immediate, devastating descent. He arrives in 1945, reacts instantly to the tank, takes that catastrophic hit, and wakes up powerless. When he does wake up, the interrogation begins. The blows come, and because he has no powers left, every single strike carries real, agonizing weight. Yet, sitting in that cell, he makes a profound realization. His captors actually need him to break far more than he needs to defend himself.
He is thrown into a pitch-black cell. Now, for a being whose very cells are literally powered by solar radiation, this is a death sentence. Thrown in the dark, without the sun, he's stripped down to nothing but a man. Every single second he spends inside that concrete box is a second less of everything he is. So he sits quietly. He waits. He just endures the suffocating darkness, preparing for whatever comes next.
Section 2. Humanity in the dark, generosity in the shadows. Let's look at a tiny glimmer of light amidst all this horror.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it contrasts with what actually reaches his soul. Just when the story feels overwhelmingly bleak, we get this almost impossible glimmer of humanity piercing through the horror of his captivity. By day, Nazi scientists visit his cell. They try to pierce his skin, but the needles just bend. They try and measure his strength, but their equipment literally breaks. It's a complete and utter failure of clinical science to understand his biology. They just view him as a specimen, right? An object to be quantified and broken. But they fail completely because they're looking for mechanics, and they are entirely missing the soul.
Because science isn't what reaches him. On the third day, a brick in his cell wall slowly, carefully moves. It's almost as if whoever is on the other side knows he's listening. A precious sliver of sunlight cuts through the dark, and through that tiny gap, he sees the eyes of a child with the heavy seriousness of someone who has seen things no kid should ever have to see. And the very next day, along with that sliver of light, the boy passes through a piece of bread.
The bread was generosity. The hand was trust. I really want you to let that poetic phrasing sink in for a second. This hero, who back in his own time had been called a savior by global leaders, had never received anything quite like this. Think about it. A boy who literally has nothing is offering half of his entire world to a complete stranger. He's giving his ultimate trust to a shadow behind a stone wall in the middle of World War II for absolutely no rational reason other than pure, untainted empathy. Section 3. The Breaking Point. The Return of the Sun. We are fast approaching the absolute physical and emotional breaking point of our story. This beautiful, quiet exchange repeats for days. And with every tiny thread of sunlight, the hero slowly begins to return to himself. But this fragile piece is about to violently shatter. So I have to ask you, what makes a powerless man fight? One day, the quiet is broken by fast footsteps. The little hand vanishes from the gap in the wall. Looking through the crack, the hero sees a soldier suddenly drag the boy into the courtyard and aim his weapon.
So the crucial point is that in this terrifying split-second moment, what burns inside the hero isn't rage.
It's absolute clarity. It is the unwavering moral absolute that certain things simply cannot happen, not while he is still breathing. His true power was never really in his muscles. It was always in this unshakable conviction.
Driven by this clarity, he unleashes a scream he'd been holding back for days. He throws a desperate punch at the stone wall. The wall completely crumbles, and for the first time, the blinding sun hits him, bathing him in light. In a single, massive rush, his powers return all at once. The soldiers in the courtyard are launched flying into the distance, and the guards scatter in absolute terror. But the boy? The boy just stands there, completely unmoving and totally safe.
Section 4. The ultimate test, justice versus vengeance. Now we enter the philosophical climax of his temporal imprisonment.
Stepping out into the courtyard, the hero realizes the ultimate tragedy of the camp wasn't just the physical suffering. It was the systematic attempt to convince people they didn't deserve to exist. But they failed. Now he has one last confrontation, the commanding officer hiding down in the bunker. You know, heroes are not forged on easy days. They're born in the resistance of the final step. So the hero walks into the bunker. He finds the monster he's been tracking, isolated, sitting totally alone, and finally stripped of his power.
And this brilliantly illustrates the time-traveling villain's true motive. Suddenly, the hero realizes exactly why his enemy, Brainiac, sent him to 1945. Brainiac didn't send him back in time to destroy him physically. No, he sent him back to face the most brutal injustice in human history in the hopes that it would break his spirit. He wanted to corrupt him. He wanted the hero to turn his justice into an execution, to just murder this defenseless Nazi officer in cold blood.
Understanding this, the hero simply stands there. He doesn't even move. The officer, realizing he has absolutely no control left except over his own end, slowly pulls the pin of a grenade from his pocket. The explosion rips through the bunker. When the smoke clears, the officer is gone and the hero is perfectly unharmed. Standing there in the silence, the hero feels a profound, overwhelming emotion, relief. Not for what happened to the officer, but relief that he himself didn't become a monster. It really shows how evil, when it can't find the monster it needs to survive, inevitably turns on itself.
Section 5. The Cycle of Hope, the Paradox of Legacy. We are approaching a massive, awe-inspiring narrative twist.
The hero walks out of the bunker into an open field, the first real horizon he's seen in a long time. Allied soldiers are arriving, and ex-prisoners are looking up at the open sky, relearning what it actually means not to have a concrete roof over their heads. And amidst the crowd, he sees the boy who saved him, waving. As a portal tears open in the sky like a literal scar of light to take the hero back to his own time, the boy finally reveals his name, Siegel.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because this is a jaw-dropping realization. The boy's name is Jerry Siegel. In the real world, Jerry Siegel was the young Jewish boy who, back in 1933, as hate was rapidly taking shape across Europe, literally co-created Superman. He created a global symbol of hope.
The hero reflects on the profound, incredible poetry of this moment. He doesn't know if the universe is simply being simultaneously cruel and generous, but he realizes that this boy, in the absolute darkest of places, gave him light. Siegel created the hero before he ever knew he existed, simply because he believed with all his heart that something like that absolutely should exist in the world. And in return, he blindly saved his own creation with a piece of bread.
I want to leave a question echoing in your mind long after this explainer ends. If hope creates the hero, and the hero, in turn, reaches back through time to save the creator, is it simply hope saving hope? It's a breathtaking paradox, isn't it? It reminds us that even in our darkest, most powerless moments, our capacity for generosity and trust might just be the very thing that saves us.
Hello, Hollywood movie lovers. Welcome to Hollywood movie story. Thank you for watching and please subscribe. Next part coming to soon. Next story, Hollywood movie. Hey YouTube, this is my short contribution this video. Okay.